The weather forecast said that the typhoon will bring rain all over the country. That's usually bad news for those going camping, but our hero doesn't care if it rains or hails. As the protagonist thanks Mrs. Park for the treat, he notices that the kimchi and samgyeopsal are well seasoned. Kang-hyun turns around and he hears a familiar voice saying that they've arrived. He expressed his confidence that there was enough food for everyone since the camp was his. Kang-hyun saw a crowd of people coming toward him. One of them asked if he had alcohol, and the fox girl ran with all her legs towards the food. There was also an old man with a magic stick and a beautiful lady with a bird sitting in her arms. And all this was not happening on Earth. The story begins somewhere in the countryside. The driver brings Kang-hyun to the store that his grandfather ran, and the driver is a little puzzled that Kang-hyun, being the most famous chef in Korea, is going to open a restaurant in such a remote area. Our hero is very concerned that after he gets out of the car, he will be attacked by the paparazzi. Kang-hyun may look like he has star disease, but wherever he goes he is recognized. He graduated from one of the top 3 culinary schools in the world, and won an international cooking competition in Paris. Somehow he got such recognition that every other TV show tried to recruit him to their side. It may seem that since he is a young talented chef, he has a bright future ahead of him, but this does not apply to our hero. Kang-hyun was often subjected to paparazzi at work. Frenzied fans burst in the middle of the day and asked to take pictures with them. And he did not like it. He often reacted negatively to it and refused them. Because of such incidents, colleagues at work were unhappy that their work was disrupted because of the fans. Also, social media was filled with aggression against Kang-hyun. People wrote that he was nasty, yelling at people to leave, and so on. Kang-hyun, reading the news about himself sitting in his room, says he's tired of the attention. The driver and Kang-hyun go to the store that his grandfather ran. The driver tells him to think carefully, because you can't make much money in a place like this. They decide to have a bite to eat, and then they'll put their things away. But since there's no food delivery, they had to find a cafe. Kang-hyun tasted the food and was stunned at the quality. It was terrible. But the driver liked the food. Then hero realizes that he's lost his sense of taste. Kang-hyun went to the doctor to find out the cause. The doctor says that due to stress, he has lost his taste and the cause is psychological, so there is no way to fix it surgically. The doctor recommends that he get rid of the source of the stress first. He also recommends that Kang-hyun find a hobby. His driver again says that it's a bad idea not to even think about the number of visitors because it's all fields and mountains, but Kang-hyun finds it a good place for camping. When Kang-hyun caught a cab, he only had a camping tile, a Swiss knife, sunscreen, a compass, and a map. The cab driver asked if he was going to the sea. Kang-hyun said he was going to camp in the mountains, and the driver was surprised that Kang-hyun was dressed inappropriately for camping and didn't bring a tent. Kang-hyun asks him to stop at Yeonpyeong village. As he gets out of the cab, it's the first time he's come to this village since his grandfather died. After looking around, the young man realized he should clean up before leaving. Soon he noticed an open door behind him, thinking it was a storage room. Looking inside, he assumed there was a thief, and since Kang-hyun would have to use a classic stainless steel bag. Kang-hyun was startled by the noise, so much so that he screamed. But soon he saw a cat in the bushes. Looking at the ginger cat, Kang-hyun threatened the creature, saying that this cat was lucky to be a cat. Looking around inside the storeroom, he suggested that even animals seem to be here more often than humans now. Kang-hyun wondered where the light switch was. As he looked closer, he noticed something strange. The place seemed smaller from the outside. Soon, the young man felt a puff of wind that surprised him, and then under his feet, an incredible picture appeared before Kang-hyun's eyes. The floor was like a starry sky with a cloud of light visible in it. Stumbling, the young man began to fall down into that bottomless abyss in the middle of the storeroom. Soon the young man woke up, finding himself in a place he did not understand. His hand began to be licked by someone and it frightened the young man. As it turned out, it was a squirrel, but Kang-hyun assumed that squirrels don't have such big ears. Soon the small creature flew upward, using its ears as wings. Watching that flying squirrel fly away, something startled him again. This time it was a small and cute rabbit. I'm sorry, a giant, and not at all cute rabbit of max level. Which promptly hopped away. But I think that rabbit's just practicing. Oh, my god, look at his abs. The young man didn't know what to do, so he just rushed forward, hoping to find a way out since it was dangerous. Soon, Kang-hyun finally stopped as he was very tired. He was in a place where there wasn't a soul or communication. At that moment he remembered the words of the doctor who had brought up camping. But the doctor had told him to try camping rather than getting lost in the mountains. And whatever the problems, but lunch should be on the schedule. In that case, the young man pulled everything he needed out of his bag and started a fire. He managed to start a fire, but the problem was that all he had was some dried mushrooms, oil and spices. Since the rest was in a stainless steel bag. Having no other choice, Kang-hyun decided to fry the mushrooms. Throwing the mushrooms into the heated pan, he then added oil to it, after which the mushrooms started to get a golden crust. Oh my god, this looks so delicious. Or maybe I was just hungry. Finally, the mushrooms were ready and all that was left was to taste them. After tasting them, Kang-hyun hoped that something would change. But unfortunately, the young man still couldn't taste anything. He was disappointed because he had hoped for this camping site. While alone in a dark and unknown place, he heard some noise. When he looked closer, he saw glowing eyes that were staring intently at Kang-hyun. The young man assumed they were wolves, so he reached for his knife. But Kang-hyun realized that this toothpick couldn't do anything to the wolf. Soon, the creature let out a roar, showing its sharp teeth. Kang-hyun closed his eyes and put his toothpick forward. He thought he was already dead, but nothing happened. Slowly opening his eyes, the young man saw that the beast was gone, not understanding why. Then he heard the sound again. He turned around and saw someone eating his cooked mushrooms. When he looked more closely, he saw a small and cute dog in front of him. But he didn't understand where it came from. Looking at the dog, Kang-hyun assumed it was a Siberian husky and it looked like a puppy. But he still wondered again, where did it come from? The young man didn't understand why this puppy was staring at him. And since this puppy had finished, Kang-hyun ordered him to leave since he didn't like dogs. He really didn't understand why everyone thought they were cute, it was a mystery to him. But without realizing it himself, he started stroking the small animal. Its fur was quite stiff, and Kang-hyun assumed it was because it was wild. But if you looked closely, you could see sharp claws as well as teeth. In that case, Kang-hyun assumed that this little animal was not a puppy, but a real wolf. In another world, Kang-hyun meets this cute wolf who looks like a dog to me. As he looks around for his mom, he thinks that those wolves are his pack. And Kang-hyun has already imagined in his head that such a small white wolf has such a ferocious mom, and that the wolf mom will think that Kang-hyun kidnapped him. After such gloomy thoughts, he lay down on the ground because he was hungry and that he would be eaten by wolves or dogs. A cute wolf bites his clothes and drags him somewhere, but Kang-hyun thought that the white wolf was going to eat him and warned him that human meat smells like fish, but the wolf wasn't going to eat him, he just wanted to show him an interesting place. When Kang-hyun turns around, he's shocked because it's the hole he fell into. And he thought about going back through it, but thinking logically, this portal leads even lower, so it could be a portal to hell. Sticking his head in, the cute wolf pushes him off at a run, whereupon he falls into the abyss. Kang-hyun slowly opens his eyes and sees that he's back in the same village and is glad he's okay. He's grateful to the wolf cub, and even if they never see each other again, he'll always remember his kindness. And then Kang-hyun notices that the wolf cub is here. He sits thoughtfully in his room with Wolfie. Kang-hyun thinks about what to call him, even though it's temporary. After that, they went to bed. After he woke up, he was puzzled that he had slept for the first time in a long time. It was time to feed the wolf cub. Kang-hyun assumed that wolves were like dogs, so their food would be fine. But under strange circumstances, the wolf refused to eat it. So the young man suggested choosing between cat food and rabbit food, or maybe starvation? He also suggested that something would work out with the flavor while he dealt with the dog. Cooking himself his favorite dishes, the young man knew nothing had changed, but at least he had tried. The young man assumed that maybe he could taste something from here. But soon the cake started eating Kang-hyun's food, and then he realized that the wolf only ate food that he personally cooked himself, and he didn't eat food from the store. But still he didn't understand one thing. Let's say the salad can be skipped, but this animal doesn't eat chicken, even though it is meat. In that case, Kang-hyun decided to test his theory. He put 2 steaks in front of the wolf. The young man used good meat, cooked in exactly the same way. However, he served them with different sauces. One steak had a store-bought sauce on it, and the other had a sauce that Kang-hyun made. Since this wolf is such a gourmet, he ordered him to choose his favorite. The first one was the store-bought sauce, and it was good too. But still, if the cake chose his sauce, Kang-hyun promised that the wolf would be worthy of being called a gourmet. But in the end, the wolf ate the steak with the store-bought sauce, wagging his tail slowly. And then he came to Kang-hyun's steak and started eating and wagging his tail so fast that he realized that the wolf was a real gourmet. Kang-hyun immediately realized that it was an unusual wolf cub, and it looked like feeding it anything was not going to work. Looking at the empty plate, he realized that he had enjoyed cooking for such a long time. Soon, Kang-hyun was painting the walls of his future store. He was not very good at it because the color was not what he wanted. assuming it was because of the paint. And a voice behind him told him that it was the paint because it was interior paint. The old man mocked Kang-hyun, saying that today's young people don't even know about paint. Kang-hyun was about to run away, but he asked who the old man was. The old man replied that he was the person you greet when you arrive. He introduced himself as the headman of the village. Since Kang-hyun didn't come to see him, the old man decided to visit him himself. The headman looked at the wall and realized that the young man couldn't paint at all. He assumed it was his first time. He also noticed that he also had a dog. Kang-hyun was about to say that it was a wolf, but he remembered not to say that, so he confirmed the old man's words. All in all, the old man suggested that the young man stop embarrassing himself. He expressed his desire to get someone to help him. Kang-hyun started to refuse, saying he would call for help himself. But the old man didn't understand why. There are skilled craftsmen in the village, and young people don't know the value of money. The old man tried to pet the puppy and at the same time asked the young man not to plan anything for the weekend, as he would ask someone to come over. He also ordered him not to touch the paint. Though it annoyed the young man, he still agreed. A few days later, the headman brought a man named Jun Min-ho. It was the son of the Jun family, farmers from a field nearby. He looks a little strange, but the guy is reliable. The young man was surprised that the old man still called out to someone, and then introduced himself by giving his name. Jun Min thought he didn't need sandpaper, but the old man had brought it with him. Kang-hyun really didn't understand why these two were working so hard for someone else's house. The old man wondered if it was true that there was going to be a restaurant and what kind of food. Kang-hyun said it would be Italian food. The old man didn't hear, so he asked the young man again. Kang-hyun replied that it would be Western food. After hearing that, Young Min asked if it was a Western restaurant, would they have pork cutlets? Sitting in the restaurant, Jun explained that his wife really liked the pork cutlets. The restaurant they always went to had closed down. She was pregnant at the moment, so they couldn't go far. Jun wanted to try cooking it himself, but it didn't come out particularly well, even though his wife didn't give a hoot. Jun Min decided to inquire about it, and if this dish wasn't going to happen, that was okay. Kang-hyun thought about the pork cutlets, since they weren't on the menu, and even though they're not easy to make, he didn't want to serve food he didn't know what it tasted like. He even thought that he should not open a restaurant. But after looking at the cake's cheerful and cute face, Kang-hyun realized. He assured Jun Min that he could make pork cutlets. Kang-hyun asked to let him, to revive their memories. Soon, Kang-hyun started the preparations. According to Jun Min, the sauce was brown rather than red, and it tasted sweet because of the tomatoes. It was similar to demi-glace. But with tomatoes, it would be bitter. He wondered, would a village eatery use tomato paste? Kang-hyun thought, how could the sauce be sweet because of tomato paste? And then he came to one conclusion, the fact that ketchup was added to the sauce. Soon all the ingredients were ready, so he called the cake maker and said that whoever got tired first lost. After chopping onions, adding flour, and breading, Kang-hyun started frying the cutlets. Cake started eating the cutlets, but his tail was moving slower than usual. That means it was too sweet. After cooking another batch, the wolf cub's tail was still moving slowly. It wasn't easy for Kang-hyun, because after losing his sense of taste, cooking wasn't fun at all. He couldn't taste what he had made. But now, he had a way to know what his dish tasted like. And this time, it tasted great. Soon, Jun Min and his wife arrived. He asked his wife if she was sick in the morning. His wife replied that she was fine. She had also heard that a new restaurant had opened up and she was eager to go there as she really wanted to eat pork cutlets. Soon, Kang-hyun himself came in and brought their order. His wife was amazed because this dish smells so good. She cut off a piece and put it in her mouth and waited for a reaction. She said that the cafe had delicious ones. But obviously not better than this one, because it was just indescribable. The sauce was very similar to the last one, but the meat was juicier and crispier. She was sure that she had never tasted such delicious cutlets. She immediately remembered her first date with her husband. After all, they had ordered pork cutlets then too. Instead of eating, Jun Min kept looking at her. At that moment, Jun Min's hands were trembling a lot, and she even felt scared for him. The words made the man start to blush. The girl explained that since that day, she had grown to love pork cutlets. Although before that she didn't like them. And maybe it wasn't even about the pork cutlets, but about this beautiful memory. Looking at this cute couple, Kang-hyun was glad that he had done his best. But also looking at the cake man, he thought he'd fattened him up too much. Kang-hyun called him a good boy, which caused the cake to roll around on the floor. Sitting at the table, Kang-hyun thought about his first customer served even before the restaurant opened. He felt that he didn't have to make Italian food specifically. Kang-hyun made notes that he could try to make a menu based on the customer's desires. Kang-hyun knew that such restaurants existed, but they were only by appointment, and the prices were quite high. And besides, the cake was something to think about. Looking at the wolf cub, the young man thought he was depressed, even though he walks him every day, even though he is not a dog. He thought Cake missed his forest. It all happened so fast, I guess an animal from another world is where it belongs. Even though Kang-hyun didn't want to send the cake home, he decided to do it even though the house would be empty. Though remembering the horrors of that place, he asked the wolf cub if he should even go there. The wolf cub looked at Kang-hyun with cat-like eyes like the cat from Shrek, but the young man assured him that he couldn't go there. But making his eyes even cuter, Kang-hyun went back to that very place after all. He was in a bad mood because he didn't understand why he came back here. But he decided to end it quickly. Kang-hyun decided that everything would be fine, while a huge rabbit was watching him. Walking through the forest, he wondered where they were. Soon he heard the sound of water, and coming closer, he saw an incredible picture. It was a stunning lake of incredible beauty. Now Kang-hyun could see why the wolf cub was so homesick, because it looked incredibly beautiful. The wolf cub was also happy to be back home. In that case, before leaving, Kang-hyun decided to give his friend a small gift. Since Cake helped him with the cutlets, the young man decided to feed the wolf cub some expensive meat by taking out the grill from his bag. Cake came delighted with such a gift. Kang-hyun coated the stove with oil and later put the meat, sprinkled a little spices, and after a while, the dish was ready. The cake waved its tail with such force that Kang-hyun thought it might fly away. Looking away and then at the grill, Kang-hyun decided that something was missing. So he took out a can of beer, because with such a great view and meat, you can't go without beer. After taking a sip of it, Kang-hyun still didn't taste any flavor. Although if you think about it like that, Kang-hyun came to the conclusion that drinking alcohol was not for the sake of taste. Yes, at that moment, the young man thought that life was good, but not until a sword was put to his neck. The man standing behind him thought that Kang-hyun was not from around here because he had never seen such artifacts, so he asked who he was. At the same time, Kang-hyun asked if the sword was real. The man asked the young man who he was? A sorcerer or a scout from abroad? At that moment, Kang-hyun's whole life flew through his eyes. After all, he never thought he would feel a sword blade at his throat. In that case, he explained to the man that he was a cook. And there was nothing suspicious about him at all. The man asked what a cook would do here. And Kang-hyun explained that he was just admiring the view. But the man didn't understand. How can you admire a forest that's full of demonic creatures? Kang-hyun urged him to take the sword away from his carotid artery, because he would die that way. But the man was adamant that if Kang-hyun didn't tell him who he really was, he would kill him. But suddenly, his attention was caught by the cake eating delicious meat right now. Kang-hyun begged to spare him, and in return, he promised to give him money, but asked what kind of currency they have here? Although if the man let him live, he would definitely find a way to exchange the one. Taking his sword away from Kang-hyun's face, the man apologized, because ordinary people usually can't even enter here. Therefore, he was too suspicious. The man introduced himself as Randolph. He is a knight on guard of these lands. He then asked what the young man's name was. Kang-hyun said his name, but he didn't understand the change of mood. Randolph explained since the white mythical ox is with him, Kang-hyun can't be an evil person. The man was surprised that Kang-hyun didn't know that. He explained that white wolves inherited the blood of an ancient god. Their direct ancestor is said to be the wolf god. The myths say that the wolf god had eyes that could see good and evil, as well as great wisdom. It is believed that the race of white wolves inherited some of his abilities. The man assured the young man that it was the wolf that was right there with him. In that case, Kang-hyun understood what was going on, because since the cake was then a god, that would explain his behavior. He concluded that the cake was indeed a descendant of a god. The man looked at Kang-hyun and thought he was thinking about the wrong thing. After a while, Randolph asked Kang-hyun again, assuming he was having lunch and enjoying the view? Though assured that in a place like this, eating would indeed feel different. He asked what kind of meat was it? Kang-hyun explained that it was beef meat, offering a piece to Randolph as well. But the man said he had already eaten, at least he wanted to say that, but he didn't get to eat. He actually just wanted to deal with the situation, but it was hard to refuse such a smell even if Randolph was full. In that case, the man asked for one bite, and it was as if Kang-hyun experienced déjà vu. After tasting that wonderful piece of meat, Randolph briefly stood in a stupor and even blushed like a girl. He didn't understand how meat could be so juicy and so tender that it melted in his mouth. Randolph knew that he would never find such quality meat in his life. But then he wondered what Kang-hyun was holding on to. The young man explained that it was a drink, and Randolph assumed it was from Kang-hyun's country as well. He really liked the cup in the young man's hands, and it was likely to be delicious as well. In that case, Kang-hyun suggested that the man try the drink. The man started to break down like a girl, saying he was just curious, but he literally put the can of beer in his hands, saying that there was no need to refuse. But since Kang-hyun was drinking from that can, he gave him another can. Tasting the soft drink, Randolph recognized it as beer, but he had no idea that beer could be so rich. Looking at the man, Kang-hyun saw the man as if he was a foreigner who lived in the neighborhood, even though a few minutes ago, he had threatened to kill him. After such a treat, the man couldn't let Kang-hyun go empty-handed, so if the young man was in his village, he asked him to find him. Upon arrival, one simply has to tell the village to tell Kang-hyun that he's looking for Randolph, the captain of the Knights of Robent. Hearing that Randolph was a captain, Kang-hyun assumed it was something like a lieutenant in the army. And the man was surprised that the young man didn't even seem to notice when he heard his rank, thinking that he was an unusual person. Randolph warned Kang-hyun to be careful, as all sorts of things happen in these parts, but since he had a white wolf with him, there was nothing to be afraid of. At that moment, the wolf asked for another portion, but Kang-hyun thought he'd had enough, since it was already the 5th portion. As he left, the man said he had to go on patrol, so he had to leave, hoping they would meet again. Kang-hyun wanted to stop the man, because if he's a captain and he's on patrol, that means he's drunk on duty. Kang-hyun wondered, is it normal in this world to get drunk while on duty? Although since it's a different world, the rules are different. Since there was only one portion left, he decided to give it all to the cake. Looking at the wolf cub, he remembered the moments he had spent with him. Lately, that little guy had lifted his spirits a lot. And Kang-hyun even felt sorry to leave him behind. Even though the wolf cub and the young man hadn't been together for long, he was having fun. After all, thanks to the cake, he was able to make good cutlets. As he left, Kang-hyun didn't know if they would meet again, but he still wished them good luck. As he left, he turned back around and realized that it was true what they say about children being useless to raise. But still, even though they hadn't been together that long, Kang-hyun still thought that he would at least get a little attached to him. But looking back, he only saw an empty bowl, but the cake was nowhere to be found. When he turned back around, the cake immediately jumped on his back, and Kang-hyun didn't understand why the wolf was clinging to him and his backpack. Barely breathing, he didn't understand what was wrong with that demon. The cake began to lick Kang-hyun's fingers and he wondered what it wanted. After all, the young man had taken him home like he wanted, so why was the wolf cub following him? After looking at each other, from Cake's reaction, Kang-hyun realized that he was better off with him than in this place. In that case, the young man had no choice but to take him, just like the first time they met. Soon, Kang-hyun was in his world. He assumed that he would have to visit the other world now, because if he didn't, the cake would make him feel like he was in trouble. Although picnics should be organized once in a while. Then, the young man noticed the pandemonium, assuming that there was some kind of holiday. But he didn't understand why they were near his house. The headman finally waited for him, and Kang-hyun asked why there were so many people here. He explained that they were having a dinner party, but the boy didn't know about it. But even if he had been told, he still wouldn't have gone. Soon the old man's companion brought a sign, and Kang-hyun decided to leave since he wasn't invited to the feast anyway. But the old man asked the young man to stay and join, since this celebration is made in Kang-hyun's honor. And now this news really dumbfounded our guy. Well, the first part of the story has come to an end. If you want to see part 2, then post in the comments, secret word, wolf. That's how I know you've seen this video to the end. That's all. Don't forget to give me likes, because it's very important to me. See you later, bye bye.